Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Good morning. Or good afternoon. Was it good afternoon back in the UK now? So to all YBs in Malaysia, Singapore, London, and probably around the world, probably going to join us later. Yeah. So welcome, welcome, welcome. As you always, thank you so much for tuning in to our Yellow Boat Live Talk on this beautiful Saturday evening. Allow me to introduce myself, Michael Chung, and we have Robin Lee joining us from London. Hi, Robin.
Hi everyone.
Hi, yeah. So we both will be your host for tonight. So what have we got tonight? So we are honored to have a well-known photographer, Mr. Michael Plascow from London, who lived in Malaysia for 27 years now. Michael has been photographing for 40 years. That's right, yeah. And he is very passionate in wildlife photography, especially the endangered species. And he loves anything related to environmental issues. He had been traveling to many countries and he has vast experience shooting in extreme cold or hot conditions. Michael married to a beautiful Malaysian wife with 4 children and 6 grandchildren. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Michael to share with us his beautiful work. Over to you, Michael. Yeah.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, we are okay. Yeah. All good.
Okay, fine. Good evening to you. The topic for tonight is shooting in extreme conditions. So I'll explain what that is in a minute. So, this is photographers shooting at sunrise, which could be one extreme condition. So really, what are extreme conditions? But my memory's going, as an old man, senior citizen, I must have forgotten something, but before my sharing. Michael, there's something wrong with my laptop, right? And the screen. Now on your screen, what do you see? Do you see me?
I do see you. I do see you.
Scratching my head.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yes.
So I'll go back again. So my memory's going, as an old man, as a senior citizen. I must have forgotten something before my sharing. So my yellow boots still in the cupboard, right? So,
this picture is really funny.
I have the need for a yellow boots outing. I need to follow the legend. You can see who the legend is. Our famous Michael. So I'm married to a Malaysian. I've got 4 children, 6 grandchildren. I'm 27 years in Malaysia. I'm from the UK, London. I'm passionate about the environment. I'm passionate about helping disabled children, passionate about helping disabled athletes. I've been photographing for work for 46 years. So what does that mean? It means that I had a design business and my own building here and also in the UK. And what we did is we got briefs from major publicistic companies in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, big retail groups. And we had to design a product for them, make a prototype, and then take the photograph of it, such as, for argument's sake, if we were designing a special type of barbecue for somebody, my team of designers did that, we'd have to make a prototype, we'd have to send a prototype for approval, then we'd have to find a background, and that meant traveling sometimes to New Zealand or Australia or UK, because Malaysia doesn't have the gardens right for that. So I did that sort of work, and I retired actually nearly 4 years ago. I've traveled to 40 different countries. I've been photographing for 61 years. I'm 71. And when I was 10 years old, my father had an Agfalumet, which is a film camera made in Belgium. And I liked the smell of the leather, the controls, and I wouldn't give it back. So after 3 years, he gave up, fighting for the camera with me, and he gave it to me. So I've been photographing ever since. So the journey that I have has really evolved from film to digital. So I had many film cameras, 1 to 50 years. Now I've got an R5. But for the purpose of this, I also have a 1DX2. I've been photographing with Canon all my life. But for the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to concentrate really on 2 cameras that I've had, which is a Canon 5D Mark IV and a 1DX2. So, what is actually shooting in extreme conditions? Is it getting lost? with no idea where you are? Is it photographing in heavy rain, photographing in the desert in a sandstorm, or photographing in sub-zero temperature? So how do you define extreme conditions, which is a task that Michael set me when I started thinking about this talk? As you can see, in this TV screen I took from a car, there's no signal, and that was in Mongolia, so you're lost.
Yeah.
So what is sub-zero temperature? I mean, look at the snow on the nostrils and mouth, searching for food. I mean, this little guy is in over minus 27 in Inner Mongolia in winter, searching, the snow, right? You can see the snow and ice on his mouth, right? For something to eat. This is deep snow in Japan, even a bicycle frozen in ice in Japan. So these are all extreme conditions, right? This is not me. This is a guy trying to get the shot, which is in deep winter in Mongolia, right, of these horses that are coming towards him. So this is also extreme conditions. You can see the house that is buried in the snow, and you can see the nothing at all in the landscape except a few clumps of trees. This is also extreme conditions, right, in Inner Mongolia, where you can just see the trees. I like this shot because of how tall the trees were, and I liked the fact that architecturally, if you look at it, it's quite nice. So I took this. I mean, a lot of my shots are with a 1635 wide-angle lens, and a lot of them are using I mean, I'll tell you about the ISO later, but using f8. And using AV mode on a Canon camera, right? This is in the Gobi Desert. You can see the police there huddling together because a sandstorm is about to approach, and they're having a race there in the Gobi Desert. So all the police are about to get instructions. I mean, this police inspector, the visibility is already very poor, and he's giving instructions to all the police there what to do because it's a major horse race.
Yeah.
You can see the sandstorms coming. I mean, this guy is selling snacks to eat, and you can already see the sand on the seat, next to him.
Michael, I think your slide doesn't move. It's still showing the Inner Mongolia photo.
Right. Which slide?
The slide I'm looking right now is Inner Mongolia.
Why is it not moving? It's supposed to sync. Okay, for some of you, I apologize for this. There seems to be a problem between Mac and Google Meet, right? So,
do you want to reshare again, like cancel it and then try to share it again?
No, it must move. So you can't see now the police?
Nope.
Maybe you just want to refresh your screen, Mike. Just refresh your screen.
I don't know how to do that, right? Actually, I don't need the laptop. If I switch the laptop off, right? Can you now see? Can you now see the police or not?
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Yeah, we can.
Right. So what I'll do is I'll forget about my laptop. You won't be able to see me. You'll be able to see me. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see you, but I'll carry on talking. And hopefully, because I can't see you, I won't fall asleep. Otherwise, Mike will give me a nudge. All right. Okay, the police are about to get instructions here just before a sandstorm, with racing in the Gobi Desert. So you can see, from the photo, the sand coming. And this police inspector, right, you can see the visibility is already poor where he's giving instructions. Can you see this okay, the police inspector? Is it okay? Okay, fine. Right, okay, jolly good. Right. This guy, he's selling snacks, right? He's actually selling hot dogs. Right, but you can see the sandstorms approaching. You can see the sand on the seats already. So, what is the worst that can happen, right, in a camera? I mean, your memory board can go. So your memory board can go. Unfortunately, it's cry like the photos. It's money, money, money to fix it. Very expensive. So camera repair can be very expensive if you don't get prepared. So this happens to be in Inner Mongolia. This is well below zero temperature. This is like about minus 20 already. The main thing with photography that I do is I've learned to plan. If you're going to see a major retailer, such as, for argument's sake, Tesco UK or Marks and Spencer UK, you cannot see a buyer without a plan, right? What you want to show the buyer, what you want to achieve at the end of it. Otherwise, it's a wasted trip where you achieve nothing. So I put that principle into photography. And before I go anywhere, you know, I like this. You see the two screens behind me? One is a map of Antarctica. The other one is what to see. So I write everything down, plan in detail. So I'm going there with a purpose. So even I try and get as much info before I can for any trip, such as what wildlife can you expect to see at a particular time of the year. So I'm well prepared. And being well prepared, I have a checklist, right? On what do I want to photograph? What is the weather like? You check the wildlife and the nature available for you to photograph. What are the photographic locations you can go to like? What is the accessibility to photograph at those locations? What camera equipment do you need so you don't empty out all your dry cupboards? What preconceived shots you want to make so you have an idea in your mind when you go there? What is it you want to shoot so you try and achieve those? And most important of all, you must have the right clothes, and shoes are very important. So these are tips on photographing in extreme conditions on camera gear to start with. I mean, this happens to be a guy in Inner Mongolia who's rounding up horses. I mean, in America, you just call it roundup. I don't know what you call it there. So your best friends you must have on these type of trips, you know, for extreme conditions. One is a good pair of gloves because your hands can slip on a camera. So I buy mine from Decathlon in KL, which are with half fingers free, and they're very cheap. You need a good dust blower. You know, for if you're going in a sandstorm, you've got to continuously blow your lens. So this one, which is available at most camera shops, I'm sure Howard's got it, is SK, which I've had for years and years and years. And the other thing is you need a good cleaning cloth. So Hoyer and Zeiss, which you can get from any optician throughout the world or specialist optometrist, is a cleaning cloth that you can wash and clean many, many times again, and is invaluable. So one of the things you also need is you need a camera cover. If you're going to photograph any terrain that is icy or wet, or has got snow, or has got sandstorms, you have to protect your camera and your lens. So I like this particular company from America called Storm Jacket because it goes into a pouch, it can go into your backpack very easy, and it's also weatherproof. But you can get others, you know, like Roland Pro and Matin are, you know, very good storm jackets as well. It's like essential. So, you know, Matin and Roland Pro, Matin's made in Korea. It's available throughout the world. Storm Jacket's made in USA, and Roland Pro are made in China. You can find them on the internet. They're not very expensive. So these are the things you don't do. If you go anywhere, right, you never take your lens off, right? Because you don't want any damp, moist, sand, or anything getting to your sensor or anything inside your camera. So this is like a no-no. You have to, before you go anywhere, you need to think what you're going to shoot and make sure your lens stays on. You don't need an expensive tripod, right? I've got Gitzo, I've got all sorts of tripods. A cheap tripod is good because if you have an expensive tripod, you put it on ice and it breaks or something like that, you'd be heartbroken. A cheap one, if it gets damaged, just get a new one. I mean, when I go away, I've this cheap tripod on the left, right, which is called Bronick, is only about 300 ringgit. If it breaks, I buy another one. Sometimes I shoot in the sea. And even though tripods at the moment are carbon fiber and they're sea, you know, like Gitzo, they're supposed to be resistant against rust and things like that. You know, I don't trust anything. My Gitzo is only for land. So I buy something like Bronick, I put it in the sea. You know, if it gets seawater in it, it gets a bit rusty, never mind, I get another one after a couple of years. It's cheap, right? When you're leaving your camera exposed to dust and dirt, don't take your memory cards out. This is like a no-no, right? You don't want any dirt or anything like that getting in there. Right. Hot shoes are a good idea. These hot shoes are very inexpensive on the internet. They'll protect where your flash goes on the top of the camera. Also, make sure you use a lens hood at all times. You know, now I hear a lot of people, I'm very guilty of it. I go in Malaysia and I do landscape. I always lose my lens hood, so why bother taking them? But when you go to extreme conditions, you need the lens hood to protect the lens. So you must have it and make sure it's fitted on properly on the lens so it doesn't fall off. Right, these are important, right? If you go somewhere, like you go to extreme cold, that's a good example, you need a dry bag. So the smallest dry bags are the ones you get for divers, right? Where you put your camera inside it. Then you can find backpacks which are dry bags on the internet. So why do you need dry bags? If you go to a very cold climate, right? You can't leave your camera out for long at sub-zero temperatures, like -20 or something like that, because then if you do it out for long, you're asking for trouble with damp and moisture getting on the memory board. So if you put your camera in a dry pack like this, which folds at the top and then seals, take it back to your hotel room or wherever, or on a boat, if you're on a boat, leave it in room temperature for about an hour, take your camera out, your camera's all right, there's no problem, all right? But a backpack is also quite useful there. You can get them on the internet, right? So I've just said this, it's about condensation. So I've just explained this about moving cold equipment into a warm, moist atmosphere, right? This is excellent, right? Baby wipes. Baby wipes are great because they don't have any alcohol. So they have a dual purpose. For an emergency, when you're shooting in extreme nature, you don't have any toilet paper anywhere, use a baby wipe. They're also great for cleaning camera bodies and lens bodies, and they don't leave any mark. And as I shared, the big thing is they won't harm a lens body or a camera body because they contain no alcohol. So these are very cheap.
Sure.
Caring is one pharmacy in KL, but you can get Johnson's, you can get Guardian, they all sell them.
Yep.
Okay. Can your camera withstand extreme temperatures? The battery life gets shorter. So recommend 2 batteries wherever you go, and the spare battery kept warm inside your coat. Okay, so if you look at these tips, go back. Protection against the wind, rain, sand, or snow, you need a jacket, right? Storm jacket is only one brand. It happens to be a brand I like. Very good are these heat pads. In KL, you can get them from a discount company called Daisu, right? And you can put these heat pads around the camera body, and you can keep the camera body reasonably warm, right? Even when you're outside and you're photographing on a tripod. Okay, let's talk about Inner Mongolia to start off with. It's an autonomous region of China. It stretches 2,400 kilometers. It's vast across northern China. And the coldest temperature in winter is -50.2 centigrade. I don't suggest you go when it's that cold because you won't even be able to feel your nose or anything around anything you've got. So the maximum I've been is about -27. It's still very cold. Okay, this is about -23. This is shot with a 1635 lens on a 1DX2 body, right? Actually, with that on a tripod, right, with a polarizing lens, using a TV mode on your camera. On other cameras, I don't know what TV mode stands for, so I'm sorry, on a Sony or Nikon, but they've got equivalent modes. Okay, this guy's very creative, but the problem with him is that my camera, was okay, his was not. He's trying to do 3D, right? There's 2 cameras on his DIY unit. This is also shot at about -20 using TV mode. This is also Inner Mongolia. This is like about -23, -24 on a tripod with, again, 1635 lens. You only have to carry 1 lens, if you know what you're going to do. Then stick a polarizer on there. Don't carry around loads of Nissi filters and things like that. This is ice. You drop them on the ice, it's goodbye, right? So you need a round silicon lens, right, to put on your camera, which is tight that you won't drop it. Okay, you need to dress properly for where you're going. If you're wearing spectacles, now you can get anti-mist, right, on your spectacles that you spray it on the spectacles and you have a cloth and it will last for quite a few hours, but dress warm. So, this would be dress. I've got an oilskin jacket from Australia. You can wear an anorak. And then I've got the most important thing is to protect your ears. And then I've got gloves that I bought in Inner Mongolia. If you go to Inner Mongolia, the clothes there are so cheap. You don't have to take anything from KL, just a toothbrush and buy there. They really are very cheap. But dress properly and have good shoes.
Sure.
This is roundup time in Inner Mongolia. This is also, you can see on the left, there's guys roundup. He's rounding up the horses, and on the right is a landscape scene. This guy's having a smoke break. Okay, this is galloping in freezing cold. You can see all the snow being trudged up by the hooves. This is a guy who's just galloping, and then you can see a horse that's resting after. Look at his mouth, you know, after foraging for food. And we go to the Gobi Desert, right? The Gobi Desert is enormous. It's just off Mongolia. The size is 1.295 kilometers square, and the elevation is 1,580 meters. And the winds are the highest winds in the world in the desert. They're 75 miles per hour. They're very, very fast. This is not my photo, but this shows you what a sandstorm is like in the Gobi Desert. They're normally in March and April. This is what the desert is like. You know, you see shrubs there that grow. You don't see much that grows there, right? It's just sand after sand after sand, like miles and miles as far as you can see. I mean, this is just for fun. You know, the sand is so soft, your feet sink into it. So we just got colorful foot protection walking in the sand that we can see all our feet. Okay, this is just before a sandstorm. I mean, you can see the trendy headgear, you know, this woman is wearing. And in the headgear and the glasses, you can see that there is a guy there on his own in a spectator stand looking at a sandstorm coming with nobody else there. And on the left, you can see these horse riders, which are mainly young boys. And there's a guy there in the truck asleep, you know, waiting for the sandstorm to come, right? That's the beginning of the day in the Gobi Desert. I mean, you can see the sun on the right and, you know, it's a night, just a night skies.
Beautiful.
Okay, this is racing in high winds with a sandstorm coming. So these guys are racing. There's bets on the racing and everything, and it's quite a big thing. And as it happens, number 22 won. Right, there were 14 horses in the race. These are young boys just before starting the final race of the day, and you can see that the weather is getting worse, and you can see the light is getting worse. Okay, this is a policeman. You can see a lot of sand in the air. The police is wearing masks. Then you can see a girl in a tent. You know, she put a tent up to protect herself against a sandstorm and still watching from the window. Okay, this is riding to the start of the race. Sorry, I repeated this photo. I don't know why. Okay, this is traditional Mongolian dress. And they decorate their saddles. They take great pride in it. This is a decorated saddle. Okay, shooting a volcano. How do you shoot a volcano? Well, if you go back to Mongolia and you shoot in a sandstorm, let's go back, right? No, no. Sorry. Okay. You're shooting in a sandstorm, right? So what do you do, right? You've got to know when the sandstorm is going to hit. So you've got to check. And then, you know, when you shoot, the main thing is that you've got to keep wiping the dust because the dust is preceding the sandstorm off your lens. Every few seconds you'll find sand on the lens. So getting a blower out of your bag all the time is no good. So you need some very good of these Hoya cloths I showed you and these Zeit cloths, and plenty of them. Keep wiping the lens. Otherwise, you're going to get specks all over your lens, you know, when you photograph. And the other thing also is you've got to be quite fast when you photograph because this storm is so fast, you don't know when it's going to hit. And if it's going to hit, you've got quite a big problem, right, in protection. And the most important thing is when you're putting the lens protection I showed you on your lens, make sure it's tight, not loose, and also on your camera, you know, when your camera body. So it's quite important, you know, to get prepared and be, you know, and actually know what's going on before you go and photograph. Okay, let's go on to volcanoes, right? The big thing about volcanoes is you've got to be very aware of gas levels, and you've got to check the heat and the temperature and which way the lava is flowing so you don't get caught. So you've got to be very, very careful. So you need to use a filter on your camera, such as a UV filter, and you need to wrap the camera in a white towel. Well, I used a white towel, but any towel to stop it getting dirty, as well as your lens hood. Your lens protection that I showed you, which is called a camera lens raincoat. And, you know, you should use afterwards. You can't shoot for long periods of time. You need a dry bag to put your camera in it. But you can also...
Michael?
Yeah?
Sorry. How close were you to the volcano itself to have all the
this,
protection?
uh,
Yeah.
600 meters.
Wow. All right. Wow. That's really close.
The sweat was pouring off me. My wife was going crazy. And you've got to be quick. You can't use a tripod or anything like that. You've got to be really, really fast, right?
Yeah.
So I was very fast, in and out, and that's it. And then you get these sort of shots, and you get the halo type effect, and you get the gases. And then 2 days later, after I left, the volcano fully erupted. So
Wow.
I'll
Whereabouts is this volcano?
show you in a minute. All right, I'll show you.
Oh, okay.
It's Hawaii, but I'll show you in a minute. All right. So one of the things you need, right? I happen to like Think Tank. I'm a big fan of theirs because they're quite well made. So this goes around your waist because you don't want to lose your lens cap. So I'm always losing them, putting them in my trousers and everything. So I like this because you can put your lens cap, put cloth in there to wipe your head, and various other things. But sometimes also it's quite good if you're in extreme conditions like that to use a cooler bag, which you can get anywhere, to put your camera in afterwards. So it's an insulated bag, and you can put a few things in it, so your camera temperature comes down a bit. All right. So this volcano is Mount Kilauea, which erupted in 2009 on the Big Island, right in Hawaii. 4 days, and I took these photos. Actually, sorry, it's not 2 days. It was 4 days before the eruption. So you can see already, if you look at it, you see the gas is building up, and the lava is already shooting into the sky. So this is 1,247 meters above sea level.
Wow.
Then you can see the fire smoke and some lava already, and and it's very, very bright. So you must have a polarizer, right, on your lens. So you can see this as well. How the volcano is moving, and you can see these rings going around the crater, and the lava is already shooting 150 meters into the sky, into the air. And there's also, you've got to wear something around your face, pre-runners to the mask, I had to wear a mask, right? Like they're wearing a mask now for COVID because there are gases in the air. So how do you photograph it when it's so hot? So my shutter speed was 1/1000. I adjust the ISO and the aperture accordingly. F8 and ISO 1000 is safe. So you've got to be very quick, and you've got to prepare your camera before you go there, and no tripod. So this is also shooting in extreme nature. So we've gone from 3 places. The first place we went to was the Gobi Desert, was Inner Mongolia, where it can get very cold. The second place we went to, we traveled to, was the Gobi Desert with the high winds and the sandstorms. Third place was photographing a volcano about to erupt. Now the fourth place is Antarctica. So it's shooting in extreme nature. So this is this picture of the penguin is a Gentoo penguin saying hello. It's saying hello to its mate. There's me, and there's penguins behind us. So this is Antarctica. So I'll share with you a bit about Antarctica first, and then we'll go into it in proper detail. Antarctica is nothing like on Earth. The big thing about Antarctica is you can fly 80% of the way. The remaining 20%, you have to cross from Argentina to Antarctica. And the Argentinian passage is called the Drake's Passage. And it is an area of sea where 800 to 900 ships have sunk to the bottom of the ocean over the last 100 years. There are high winds there, which can be as high as 40 foot high. So when you go on a ship and you cross this passage, what they tell you is, don't go outside. I should have shown you a photograph. Stay in your cabins. So when you go into your cabins, there are seatbelts, like the seatbelts of a car. And they say, strap yourself in. If you get seasick, lean your head over the seat, over your cabin. Be sick. Come out really if you want something to eat, but stay for 48 hours, right, in your cabin. And then when you get to Antarctica like this, the first thing you see is total peace. No noise, nothing, no pollution, nothing. Bright blue skies. It's like heaven, really. No politicians, nothing there. It's just total peace. No big waves, nothing. Okay, so it's a wilderness, right? If you can see, a friend of mine standing there, for the photo. This is shot with a 1635 lens with a polarizer on it. In Antarctica, you can't use tripods because the The snow is so thick with ice, if you use a tripod, the danger is you'll slip. And then goodbye to your camera, goodbye to your lens and everything. So you've got to be quite careful. So it's a total wilderness. As far as the eye can see, you can see snow and you can see ice. So, you know, if you put a size in comparison, you can fit the USA and Mexico into Antarctica. So the Antarctica land area is 14.2 million kilometers square. So land elevation is 7,500 feet, or 2.3 kilometers, which is the distance above sea level. So if you can't relate to to America and Mexico, you can definitely relate to Australia if you live in this part of the world. You can fit Australia more than twice into Antarctica. So how do you get there, right? As we live in KL, I mean, Robin, you live in London, so it's a slightly different way. You can travel east or west, doesn't make any difference, right? But if you travel west like I did, first thing you do is you fly to Dubai, which is 6 hours, 45 minutes from Kuala Lumpur. Then from Dubai, you fly 22 hours, 20 minutes to Argentina. And then from Argentina, from Buenos Aires, which is the capital, you have to take a domestic flight. There's no international flight, 3 hours, 35 minutes to the most southern city in the world, which is called Ushuaia. And from Ushuaia, you travel 40 hours by boat to Antarctica. It's a very long way. It's 80 hours, 15 minutes travel, right? So for me, I'm an old man already. I can't do it, right? So I stopped halfway. I stopped in Buenos Aires, which is a very interesting city, and for a couple of days. And then I stopped in Ushuaia for one day just to break the journey. It's just too much, you know, because I'm not one of these people. When I get on a plane, I'm very restless. My wife, when she gets on a plane, within about 20 minutes, she's fast asleep. Nothing can wake her, sometimes not even the food. For me, I'll have to watch every movie going up and down, you know, walking up and down the aisle. I watch every movie going, and then after I've watched everything and exhausted, then I fall asleep. So we flew Emirates. I chose Emirates because they've got a lot of movies. But if you go the other way, you know, and you think, okay, I want to go Australia, you can go, but there's no difference really in flight time. But you still have to end up in Argentina if you take an international flight, because there are no international flights, right, to Ushuaia at the bottom of Argentina. Only a domestic flight. That's how you get there. It's a long way, 80 hours, 15 minutes. It's not like 4 hours down to JB, you know, or if you're in London going out to Manchester. It really is a long way. So one of the things that people ask is it cold in Antarctica? So the South Pole is minus 28.2 degrees centigrade in summer. So in winter, it's minus 64 centigrade. It's bloody cold. So in 1986, the coldest recorded at the South Pole was minus 89.6 centigrade. All right, it really is cold. So one of the questions is the South Pole colder than the North Pole? Yes, it is. It's minus 22 centigrade in summer at the North Pole and minus 29 centigrade in winter in the North Pole. So it's only minus 29 centigrade in winter in the North Pole, but it's minus 64 centigrade at the South Pole. The outside of Antarctica is not too cold. So if you look at the map and you look at the top left, you see the Weddell Sea, Weddell-C, and then you see the Antarctic Peninsula. So from there, to go around the outside, like the Bellingshausen Sea, is anything from -1 to -10. On an unlucky day, it could be -20 or so. The air is very dry, and in winter, it's frozen over in many places and just not accessible. So, can you travel to the South Pole? A lot of people ask. Yes, can. There's a Russian Ilyushin plane that goes there as an example. But the Russian Ilyushin plane will not go from Russia, it will go from Chile. There is no wildlife right at the South Pole. If the snow can be very deep, it can be 8,000 feet deep. It's a lot of deep, right? There's a lot of ice and it can be dry, cold and windy. So if you can fly to the South Pole, you know, as I said, you can fly to the South Pole. There's specialist operators out of Chile. And you spend 3 to 4 hours only at the South Pole because of the weather, and it's very cold and very expensive. So can you drive to the South Pole? Yes, you can, but very few have done it. Why? Because the trip is too hard and it's expensive. So they're special trucks, and in the right-hand side, you can see this Toyota Hilux truck with fuel that will not freeze, with only 2 people allowed per truck. And these Hilux trucks are modified. And to go there, it's around 70,000 US dollars per person, or 292,000 ringgit. So you're buying a house, or you're buying a Mercedes to go there. And it's 4 to 5 days driving just to get there, with 3 overnight camps. And it's 1,235 kilometers from the nearest coastline, situated on a polar plateau, 2,800 meters high. So you see, you know, from my left-hand photo, you can fly from Punta Arenas, which is in Chile. So who owns Antarctica? No one. So it's protected in the 1959 treaty by 12 countries, which are Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Japan, Norway, South Africa, Russia, New Zealand, USA, UK. So the access is by boat. Planes are discouraged due to difficult navigation because of magnetic fields. So, what type of vessel do you choose for a trip to Antarctica? There are many different types. I mean, you can go on an old sailing vessel, which you can hire, and you can go on, you can't go on a cruise ship. I'll start with that. The reason you can't go on a cruise ship is you need to have a special license. All these modern cruise ships, like the cruise ships, you know, that dock at Port Klang in Malaysia, or if, you know, as Robin's from the UK, that dock at Southampton, are not built for this type of weather. Excuse me. So you need a ship that's approved, that's built to a certain type, built specifically to go there, and you need a special license, which is not easy to get. So, I mean, we chose this research ship with naturalists and geologists on board. The ship was built in 1970 in the USA. It's registered. The flag is not up, unfortunately. I don't know why, but it has the flag of the Union of Comoros, which is a country in East Africa, and it operates out of Ushuaia, Argentina. So why did I choose this? The reason I chose this is because when you go to Antarctica, because the landscape is so beautiful, it's also ever changing. You go to 2 places and it's never the same. And also the daylight is changing. You know, it can be dark, slightly dark, it can be bright, it can be slightly misty. It's always changing, and you don't really know when. So the easiest thing I thought was go there and learn. So if you want to go there and shoot, right, and do as much as you can and take many photographs, yes, you can do that. You know, there are operators who will allow you to do that. But for me, I wanted to go just explore, do it my way, which is properly, and learn where I'm going, and learn about the geology of the place, and learn about what wildlife is there, why the wildlife is there. So every day before we went anywhere, we had a talk by a naturalist and geologist in a room on board this ship. And there were only 14 of us, and they told us what we should expect. So this is the morning landscape. You can see how beautiful it is. So if you go to the research station, right, which is at the South Pole, which is the only one that's at the South Pole, this photograph is not mine, but it was shot at it should be 38 centigrade, not 3°C, sorry, minus 100 Fahrenheit. So you can see how cold it is. So the research station was fabricated in the USA, built by the Navy in 1956 by prefabricated modules with the exterior 4 foot thick, with an aluminium inner surface and plywood sandwiching the fiberglass. And then they took it by sled and by plane, and then they built it there. So that's there. And their job is to research climate, the ever-changing climate of the South Pole. And there are people there all year round. Some of these research stations, what they do is they close them in the winter because it's so cold, and they pull the people off, and then they bring them back again in the summer. But this is their, 365 days of the year. This is around minus 12 centigrade. The sun is out. You can see the ice. Excuse me. You can see the ice there. Okay, this is just a landscape shot, which is quite beautiful, and you can see the clear water with the reflection, with no pollution at all, nothing there at all. No bottles, nothing. It's forbidden, according to the Antarctic Treaty, to throw anything on board, throw anything over the side of a ship, or to pollute. Even when you go and photograph penguins or anything like that, to show you there is also rules. You can't just go there and think, oh, you know, I'm going to photograph anything you like. There are rules in doing it. Okay, this is another landscape with reflection. It's very quiet, no sounds. This is shot with my 5D Mark IV using a 1635 lens, and it's off a boat using a circular polarizer, because I'm obviously too scared if I use my Plascow or Hoya filters, I'll drop them in the water and never see them again. All right, look at me in comparison to the vast landscape. This is not the fact that the photo is not straight, right? I'm straight standing up. The photo is, if the land is actually tilting like that. Okay, you can now see the Zodiac boat, how big it is in comparison to the vessel that took us there, you know, on a beautifully white landscape. Okay, so we're exploring, right, off the boat using a Zodiac boat. I'll tell you about the boats in a minute. You can stand up in the boat and you can actually take photos, but you can't land anywhere on this landscape. There's no particular place. It's sheer ice everywhere you look at, but it's quite beautiful. This is like about 10 o'clock in the morning. All right, these Zodiac boats are very special. They're sturdy inflatables used by the military, and they're good for shallow water. So the first one was used in France in 1896. So they're made from plastic polymers like PVC and synthetic rubbers. And due to their welded structure, they have tremendous stability. So they have compartments, right, in the boat to give them structure. And they are light, but exceptionally strong, with mercury motors on the back, and they can go into very shallow waters. There are lots of icebergs everywhere in Antarctica. So icebergs are chunks of ice that break off from glaciers into the ocean. The glacial ice that icebergs are made of can be more than 15,000 years old. So the one thing about glaciers, you know, I've got loads of photos. I mean, I actually took, when I went there, about 2,000 photos. And out of the 2,000, I've probably got a hit rate where 1,400 are quite good. And maybe about 600, I would say, are, you know, good, that anybody else would say, you know, that, you know, we really like these photos, 600 or 700. But I'm very bad at editing, so I don't edit much. So these icebergs are chunks of floating ice freely with approximately 90% of the mass below water, as you can see this cartoon, and there are a lot of them everywhere. So one of the things is, in terms of navigation, right, on a boat, the boats have really got to watch out for these icebergs, right, because they are everywhere, and they've got to stay clear of them. As I shared with you before, GPS, right, even sonar is difficult in Antarctica, and you can forget about a hand phone. There is no Maxis, Cellcom, or any signal there, right? Okay, what to wear is quite important, right? The storm jackets I shared with you for my camera, a dry bag or a backpack, a belt pack, right, for your lens cap and your bits and pieces. Must have waterproof trousers. You must have boots or shoes with spikes. So if you look on the other side, I happen to like oilskin jackets, but you can use a thick anorak or something. And then in the bag, I've got my filter, my blower, my cleaning cloth, lens cap, and the gloves in the bag. Right. When you go on this ice, if you look at it, it is rock hard. If you put a tripod on it, the chances are the tripod will slip and it's goodbye to your camera. If you put a monopod on it, even if you put a spike on the monopod, as this is rock hard, it's hard to pierce it. So most of the shooting in Antarctica, right, when you go on the land, is all handheld. It's, you know, you can't use that. You can't spend hours, you know, changing your filter and things like that. You need to put a UV filter on the front of the camera and then use your skills, right, to photograph. So normally I use, you know, on a Canon camera, as I share with you, I don't know what it is on Nikon or Sony. I try and use AV mode, or I use manual, depending on what it is. Okay, as I share with you, I'm standing on thick, slippery ice. Forget monopods or tripods, steady hand and freestyle shooting. Make sure you've got a polarizing filter on your lens. And the best thing otherwise as well is make sure you've got a lens cloth, because your lens will get dirty very, very quickly. Because it's, although it's dry air, right, you will still get damp on your lens and your lens will start misting up. So lens cloth is ideal. Okay, this is a beautiful landscape that I shot early in the morning. This is off a Zodiac. Again, this is with the 1635 lens, hands-free, and this is in AV mode, using f8. Okay. There are about 13 different types of penguins in Antarctica. So I can't photograph all of them. So I just picked one. This is called, excuse me, this is called a chin-strap penguin. So these are quite different because their coats are sealed and they can dive in the water quite deep to catch fish, and they like to go after krill. So krill is like a shrimp, and krill are mainly on the bottoms of icebergs. So they're 72 centimeters high. They weigh 3.5 kilo. They live 15 to 20 years. There's about 8 million pairs in Antarctica. Don't think Antarctica is just a land of penguins. There are other animals there, but penguins obviously has got the largest amount in the world. The different types of seals. This is a Weddell seal. So these are 3.5 meter long and they can weigh up to 400 kilo. So there are around 800,000 of these seals in Antarctica, and they can stay underwater for 45 minutes, and they dive down to 2,000 feet, and they have one pup a year, and they're very placid animals. They eat cod and other fish. So they eat anything from 10 kilo to 50 kilo a day. Sorry, there should be a Y there. So this is shot on a 100 to 400 lens at 400 meters away. Again, using a polarizer, no tripod, hands-free, with AV mode. And then the one that is nearer, that you can see on the right, underneath where it says these are 3 meters long and can weigh anything up to 4, is a crop photo, right? This is actually quite a big photo. I've forgotten. I shoot in RAW, by the way. I don't shoot in JPEG. Sometimes in JPEG, if I've got a lot of photos and I want to see them very quickly. RAW take a long time to download because on my camera they're about 30 megabyte or whatever or more. Okay, this is an orca whale. The dorsal fin helps stabilize the whale to stop it rolling in the water. They work in packs. They're called killer whales sometimes. Why are they called killer whales? Because in a pack, they will go after another whale or after a seal, right? But what they do, right, quite often is they're quite versatile whales. They will go after penguins. So they'll wait and wait until they see a baby penguin by the ice near the sea, and then they'll come out of the water, they'll snap the penguin, and then that's it, the penguin's gone. This seal is called a crab-eater seal. It's one of the most popular seals in Antarctica, and it weighs about 225 kilo or 496 pounds. So, you know, in Antarctica, because of my time limit here, I haven't put all the wildlife because there are birds there as well, right? But the big thing, as I shared earlier to Robin and to Michael, now global warming has hit Antarctica. So all the animals that you see, in order to escape global warming, are moving further and further inland. So within a few years, they'll be almost inaccessible. Because if you can imagine, when I took this seal, right, it's already minus 20. You go more and more inland between the south, towards the South Pole as global warming hits, right? You won't be able to photograph them anymore, right? So this is taken actually with a 100-400 lens at 400 meters away, and I just cropped it, all right? But it's quite sharp. And I've got a polarizer on here as well, and it's all freehand. And it's on, I use manual mode on this, but I can't remember all the settings on manual mode. As I share with you, you know, the big thing that I haven't shown here because of time constraints are emperor penguins. Emperor penguins are moving further and further inland, so you'd have to be in a climate of about minus 30 or so, you know, to photograph the emperor penguins, which are interesting animals, but, you know, you've got to go quite far. So this is an evening in Antarctica. You know, it's quite beautiful. In fact, if you look at it, it looks like an oil slick, but it's not an oil slick. It's just the water, you know, and the sun behind there. So this is nearly the end of my talk. You know, yellow boots, yellow boots, yellow boots. Even he's dreaming on yellow boots. Michael, when are we going on an outing? Howard, when are we going on an outing? So thank you for listening to me. Happy shooting. Stay safe. So I've just shown you a few photos. You know, I could talk for hours, but you know, I realize we're limited. So there's a time for questions. So ask me anything you like. And another time you want to hear more, I'll do it again.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you. Beautiful sharing. Okay, guys, any questions for Michael?
the big thing just to share, right, is you don't need expensive equipment to do all this, right? We don't need, you know, a body that costs 25,000. Sorry, Howard. Luckily, Howard's not here, right? And you don't need a big expensive lens. But what you do need is the basic essentials. Like you do need the wiper cloths, you do need a blower. You know, all these things are not expensive. You know, you do need a storm jacket or something like that. But the actual camera and the lens does not need. What you need to do, the biggest thing is plan. Plan what you want to shoot and don't go there blind. Any questions, please? Right, somebody's raised a hand. So what is the question? And I'll do my best to answer it. Neo Chong Chua has raised a hand. Talk, please.
Yep. Chua, any question? So you raise a hand. No. Michael, how would I know whether it's a female or the male? When I look at your
How do I know what? Penguin.
Yeah, the penguin. Do you know them whether it's male or female?
Yeah, you know.
They all look alike to me.
No, they don't. No. You know by the color of their fur, right? And whether it's a male or a female. And you know also that the one thing about penguins, right, are a bit like me. I've only got one wife. So penguin's only got one wife. It doesn't go off, you know, wandering and philandering. So the female penguin, you know immediately because it's got the egg between her toes, right? And she's waiting for the egg to hatch, you know, covered in snow, and she's standing there all the time, or the egg underneath her, while the male is wandering off and coming back with food all the time. So you'll immediately be able to spot them. But it's also a difference in the fur. And then when the baby's born, right, the baby has a lot of baby fur, right, on it. Another time I'll show a photo. And the baby fur takes about 6 to 7 months to disappear, and then they're ready to go swimming. They don't go swimming. They stay very close to the male and female. Right. What else can I answer? Please ask. I'm yours.
Yeah. Gobi Desert. How did you get there last time?
Okay, very simple. You fly to Beijing, right? So from here you can use, or Singapore, you can use any one of the airlines, you know, MAS, Singapore Airlines, or AirAsia to Beijing. From Beijing, you get a domestic flight, right, to the capital of Inner Mongolia. And from there, right, you take local transport, which for me was four-wheel trucks, right? Four-wheel drive, like a Land Rover or Mitsubishi or Pajero or something like that. I've forgotten the number of hours, but it's like a full day's journey to the outside of the Gobi Desert. And then you just get prepared. You've got to get prepared for the sandstorm. The sandstorms are only a certain time of year. It's not all year round. And then when there's no sandstorm, it's quite interesting to go there, and you find some wildlife right there when you go inside. It's an enormous place. I think it's the 5th biggest desert in the world, but it's the you know, Sahara is much bigger, but it's the one with the biggest storms.
You went to Gobi during the winter time.
Sorry?
Did you went to Gobi Desert in the winter time, or was it a summertime you went?
I went summer. I went, I think, in... I've been to Mongolia a few times. I went in the summer, right? And the reason was because... I haven't shown the photos again. In the capital, there's an enormous fair. And if you look back in history and you look back at Genghis Khan, one of the things that Genghis Khan was famous for was not just the horses, but also archery. They were fantastic archers. So at this enormous fair where they dress up in local clothes, and you know, you see phenomenal archers, and then you also see that we put Olympic champions to shame, some of them, right? I shouldn't say that, but it's true. And then you'll find wrestling, you know, which is traditional there. And then you'll find, you know, local gambling and things like that. It's very interesting. So I went there specifically for that. And at the same time, I thought, okay, I'll go to the sandstorms in the Gobi Desert. So I just did that on one trip. And then others I've been in the winter and things like that. Because it's not far from Malaysia, you see. It's a nice place to go. I could go there so many times. I mean, in the summertime, the interesting thing to go there is that the grasslands are so vast. You just, you know, they never found the body of Genghis Khan or his tomb, but you just follow where he could have gone, and you can go for miles and miles, and you can go, you know, If you're in the Gobi, you can go on a camel. If you are, you can go on a horse. Like these Mongolian horses are not like USA or thoroughbreds in the UK from Newmarket or somewhere like that, or Saudi Arabian horse or Arabian horses. These are special horses, that are reared in Mongolia for long distances because that's what Genghis Khan wanted. But summertime is beautiful.
Cindy, I saw you raise your hand. You have any questions, Cindy?
Yes. My beautiful photos. Can I know why tripod is not recommended on Antarctica?
Okay. It's not recommended, Cindy, because the ice is very hard and slippery, right? When you can land anywhere. So the first thing you need, when we come onto tripod, is you need a good pair of shoes. And these can be shoes, that are trekking shoes or with spikes or something, or they can be, the rubber boots that, we know as yellow boots, or mine I've got yellow boots, Dunlop UK boots, whatever, right? Something like that. So the first thing is the terrain, the ice is slippery. And there's also snow there too. So if you put a tripod down and you don't put it properly, the legs will open up and the tripod will collapse together with your camera. So it's not advisable to do it. So when people take landscape photos, right, and they use a tripod, normally it's from a boat, like the boat I shared with you, the vessel, and you can put a tripod there. Even a monopod is not so good. So if you have a camera and you use manual mode, right, the only thing you can't do with the camera in shooting is you can't do long exposure. But you can use AV mode and TV mode, and you can get quite good shots, and have a circular filter there. Because, again, if you, like you probably, I've got Hoya and Athabasca filters for everything, and these little square filters, and you need a tripod to put them on, but they're all glass. So you drop them on the ice, you'll be crying. It's goodbye. It's goodbye. Off to Howard. I want a new filter, please, Howard. Mine's broken in Antarctica.
No, I thought the tripod we have something like a spike at the bottom that can be used.
No good, Cindy, because the ice is so thick. How do you, unless you get a hammer, how do you put it in the ice? Really, honestly, difficult.
Okay.
You're very welcome. What else can I?
Thank you.
What can I share?
Thank you.
Yeah, Mike, I saw you wear glove all the time, when you shoot Antarctica and places like that. I was in Iceland before and I found it very difficult, if I wear a glove and try to click the shutter. How you manage to do that? Yeah.
No, because these are like biking gloves you buy for a bicycle. So I went to Decathlon in KL and they're so cheap. And the ends of the gloves, right, are cut off so your fingers are out. But the main part of your hand, your palm, right, is all protected. So you've got a cutoff on the front, so your fingers can move easily. So it's like that. And then you can, I find with gloves, you can hold the camera better. That's only me.
The other thing you could use is the wired remote shutter. So once you got that, you could easily operate with your gloves.
Yeah, you can do that. In Inner Mongolia on the snow, because the snow's very soft. You can put a tripod.
I used that method when I was in Japan in winter. In 2 years ago now.
Yeah, or on your Canon camera, you've got 10 seconds, right? 2 seconds and 10 seconds, right? Which you can use as well if you don't want to use a remote shutter, but they're quite good too.
The other way is if you have 2 layers of glove, the first layer will be a thin layer where you could shoot easily. The other one is your mittens, where I think the as long as you keep your hand warm, I think that's the main thing. You need your fingers to keep warm. If your hand is frozen, you won't be able to operate the camera.
I mean, quite frankly, countries are different. If you go to Mongolia, Inner Mongolia, and you go in a shop and you say, I'm a photographer, they think their dreams have come true because they'll fit you out. Everything from your hat to your gloves to your jacket to your shoes. So in fact, I learned the second time I went, all you need to do is go to Inner Mongolia, is take a toothbrush and toothpaste, right? And you need a carry-on bag. Everything else they'll give you. Don't give you, you've got to pay for it, but it's so cheap. So, and then, when you go to Antarctica, then you've got to really prepare. I think the clothes are, You know, my wife always complains, you know, when we go anywhere, why you got so much camera gear? Where are your clothes? You know, and when we go somewhere, why you got one T-shirt? Where's the rest of your clothes? So, but I've learned over the years, you know, that clothes are just as important, and you need to, health is wealth, I was taught, you know, particularly as you become a senior citizen like me. So you've got to look after yourself, right? So you choose your clothes carefully that you want to wear, as well as your camera gear. And just, you know, as I shared, you know, from the presentation that I did for work, you know, choose your gear. You know, I remember years ago, I used to think, you know, I'm going somewhere, I need to empty all my dry cupboards, take everything. And then I learned, you know, that's not necessary. Plan and take what you want, even if it's only 2 or 3 lenses. You know, don't take much. Be a Boy Scout. Be prepared.
Yeah. Sorry,
Any other
I
questions?
think, yeah, quite a number of people, I think they thought that, you know, our session actually start at 9. So quite a number of them actually just joined, but we are about to finish actually.
No, well, if
Yeah.
it's like that, Michael, if it's like that, some have joined. What I can do is I can flick through the images very fast.
Can you?
So
Yeah,
if you
I'm just wondering whether you can, you know, are you happy to just
all right, yeah,
quickly
let's go
run
back.
through, you know? Yeah,
Yeah, let's
just
go back. I'll flick through them very
Yeah.
fast and hardly do any talking.
Thank
right?
you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah. I
Right.
think many of them actually confused that, no, usually we start at 9, but because
No
of your
worries.
special request, we start at 8 this time, yeah.
Because I'm an old man, that's why. Right, let's think how to do this. All right. Can you see? Can you see the photo? Michael? Michael?
Yes,
I can
we
see.
can.
Thank you, slide. Okay, now it's good. Now
Can you
it's
see
good.
the
Yeah.
slide? Right, I just do the talking very quick, right? And I'll go through them, right?
Yes, please.
So you look at extreme nature. These are extreme nature photos, right? You know, what are extreme conditions? And I did this, you know, bit of a takeoff on yellow boots, you know, my memory, old man and everything, senior citizen. I forget a lot of things. That's why I'm scratching my head. You know, IO, my yellow boots still in the cupboard, not being used. Look so clean, right? And then, you know, I've got the need for a yellow boots outing. Howard, where are you? Michael, Stephen, anyone there?
Oh dear.
I need to follow the Sifu, the legend, Michael. And then a little
Oh
bit
dear.
about myself, right? And then my journey's evolved from film to digital.
Yeah.
So the shots I'm going to show you with
Yeah.
the Canon 1DX2 and a 5D Mark IV. I've done digital. I've been using film for many years. Then, what is shooting in extreme conditions? Because Michael gave me that title, and it's quite wild, quite a wide title. So is it getting lost with no idea where you are? Like the signal in a Pajero when I was in Inner Mongolia, no signal, nothing, so totally lost. Right, look at the stars and everything, and then pray. Or is it photographing in heavy rain, or is it photographing in the desert in a sandstorm, or photographing in sub-zero temperatures? So to give you an idea, you know, sub-zero temperature, look at the snow on the nostrils of this horse and his mouth, you know, where there's ice on it, where it's searching for food. In Inner Mongolia, you know, minus 25, minus 26. These are taken in Japan. You can see other extreme conditions, a bicycle frozen in ice or deep snow. This is not me. This is a guy in a tree being very enthusiastic, getting the shot of these horses in Inner Mongolia at minus 23. This is in Japan, lots of ice and snow. You see the house nearly covered. This is just in Inner Mongolia. I like the structure of the trees and everything, but very cold. This, I mean, I'm shooting just to share everybody in either manual, AV, or TV mode on a Canon camera. And the main lens I'm shooting with is a 16-35 lens. And most of the time, I'm using a polarizer. I'm not using the Hoya or Athabasca lenses that I've got, because except for Inner Mongolia, where you can shoot with a tripod, and you can use those type of lenses without fear of them getting damaged, everywhere else you have a problem. So this is in the police about to give instructions just before a sandstorm in the Gobi Desert. And the storm, you can see from the slide, the storm is about to come. This is a police inspector giving instructions, and you can look at the weather, and the visibility is already very poor. This is a guy selling hot dogs, and you can see the storm coming with the sand on the seats. Hot dogs and Coke. So really, you know, what's the worst thing that can happen? Your memory board, which is one of the most expensive pieces on your camera, can die. So that's money, 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 money to fix, big tears, cry a lot. So, you know, camera repairs can be very expensive. and it also means you don't have your camera for a while. So if you don't get prepared, you know, you really need to get prepared. I mean, this one is well below zero. It's in, I think this is about minus 23 or 24. This is in Inner Mongolia. So what do? You plan. And the reason you plan, and I plan, I shared with everybody, is from my training. So for years, my business has been, as Harley, who's joined knows, right, is I've been photographing and designing for major public listed companies like people like Tesco and Marks and Spencer in the UK, where they give me a product, I make a photograph, I've got a team of designers, and we make prototypes, we get them approved, and then we have to photograph them, and they could be in lifestyle type scenes like a barbecue in a garden, but it can't be a Malaysian garden, it's got to be a UK garden or Australian garden, so we have to go and photograph them in the garden, that sort of photography, or food photography, that sort of thing, right? So everywhere I go, I look and I plan as much as possible. In fact, in this for Antarctica, you can see my left hand, I've got two monitors. So my left hand monitor is a photograph of Antarctica, a map of where it is. My right hand monitor is where is it, what is there to do, so I can sit down, you know, with my clipboard and plan what to do and have preconceived shots before I go. So this is, you know, I plan the wildlife, so I know what time of year the wildlife are going to be and what I expect to see, whether it's penguins, birds, or whatever. Right, sorry. So this is like a checklist, right, that I have. What do I want to photograph? What's the weather like? I check the wildlife and nature available, photographic locations, accessibility to photograph, what camera equipment do I need, what preconceived shots do I want to make? Most important, what are the right clothes I should take? And shoes are very important. So now I'll give a few tips on photographing extreme conditions on camera gear. This is round up in Inner Mongolia at about minus 22, 23, right? So these are your friends you must have on these type of trips. The first thing is that when you are in the cold or whether you are in the hot, the one thing is your hands might slip and your camera body goes down. So I always buy these gloves from Decathlon where half the fingers are free, right? And they're very cheap and they're very useful and easy to put on. You need a good dust blower. So I've had a couple of these. They're made in Switzerland. You can find it on Lazada and everywhere. The maker is called SK and they last for years. The other thing very important is a good cleaning cloth. So I buy Hoya or Zeiss, always from an optometrist in KL. I think about 14, 15 ringgit or something like that. They can be washed many times and they're very, very useful. So the next thing you need is you need a lens protection. So there are many different types you can find on the internet. So I use Storm Jacket, which is made in America, which I like, which is not expensive, but you can get Roland Pro and Matin as examples, but this is like a must-have. And it's got to be tight as well. So it protects your whole lens and also your camera body. So you're just seeing here, you know, from your viewfinder. Sorry, hang on a sec.
Your slide is not moving.
Right, okay, right.
Yeah.
Is it moving? 1 minute. Is it moving now?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's still your picture with the two monitor.
Right. Have you got this Storm Jacket?
No.
No.
Have you got this, the gloves? What's the last photo you've got?
We still stop at the two monitor.
Okay,
remove
okay.
the gloves.
You got the gloves now?
Yep.
Okay, right. Why isn't it moving? Hang on a sec. Right, have you got this now, the Storm Jacket? Have you got?
Yes.
Okay, right. You need something to protect the lens, obviously, right? So I like the Storm Jacket from America, which is not expensive, but it needs to be tight at the front and also tight at the back, so you only see through the viewfinder. But there are many types in the market. You don't have to have this brand. You can get Roland Pro and Matin as an example. So, okay, I don't know whether Matin is made in, which is the top one, is made in Korea. All right. This Roland Pro is made in China, and Storm Jacket is made in America. So have you got this slide now, tripod?
Yes.
Okay. So taking a lens off, right, in extreme conditions is a no-no, because you don't, when you're shooting in extreme conditions, you don't want sand to go in your filter. Sorry, you don't want sand to go inside your sensor. You don't want any damp or anything like that. So it's a no-no. You don't need an expensive tripod, right? I have Gitzo tripods and I've got cheap tripods. So I buy the cheap tripods like this one, which is called Bronic. You can get in KL, but you can get many different types. I paid 350 ringgit for it. So even though the Gitzo is carbon fiber and you can use it anywhere, I value it because it's expensive. I've got a couple. So I use the cheap one because I don't care if it gets rusty, and every 2 years I throw it away and buy another one for this type of photography. Right? Lens shoe is quite good. You can buy these on the internet, right? Just put them on the top and it protects your flash hot shoe. Lens hood is quite important. I always lose my lens hoods when I'm here. But when I go overseas, I always make sure they're on the camera. Right? This is quite important. Dry bags for cameras, etc. Backpack and diver's bag. And this is why. All right? Condensation. All right? So when you're moving cold equipment into a warm, moist atmosphere, the airborne water will become deposited on the internal surfaces of the camera and may affect performance. So what you need to do is you need to get a dry pack. So this is a diver's dry pack. You can buy any on the internet or any diving shop, which is the normal size 15 litre. This is a backpack that I bought on the internet. Because when you're on a boat, right, like a Zodiac inflatable boat, this is a bit of a nuisance. So a backpack's great. You just put it on your back. So what you do is you put your camera in there when you're not using it. I normally wrap a towel on it. When I go back to the ship or I go back to a hotel, I allow the camera to go back to a normal temperature, to the room temperature. Then I take it out and clean it, and I never got any problems, right? This is also very good, right? Dual purpose, right? A wet pack, right? This is a baby one. You can get Johnson's baby one. Are you still with me? Can you see this photo?
Yes.
Okay. This is a baby one. You can get Johnson's one or anything. These are non-alcoholic, dual purpose for an emergency when you're shooting in extreme nature. This is Mongolia. You can use it if you get caught. They're great for cleaning camera bodies and lens bodies, right? And the plastic and the metal on it, right? You can easily clean with it and you throw it away. And because they're non-alcoholic and they've got nothing in them, right? You could they're non-harmful. Caring is just one pharmacy in KL, but Guardian, they've all got it, right? Can your camera withstand extreme temperatures, right? Battery is very important. Your battery life gets shorter. So we recommend 2 batteries, a spare battery kept warm inside your coat. Right, so this is a reproduction of what I just said. The jacket, which in my case is a storm jacket, protects the camera against wind, rain, sand, or snow. These are very good. You can buy these in the Japanese discount store Daisu, which is in KL. I think it's Singapore as well, right? These are hand warmers. You just wrap them around the camera when you're in extreme cold and you just keep the camera body warm. All right, let's look at Inner Mongolia. So it's an autonomous region of China. It's very big. It stretches 2,400 kilometers. The coldest temperature in winter is minus 50.2 degrees centigrade. So it gets very, very cold. All right. This is just roundup time. This is shot with a 1635 lens, f8, with a polarizer on it, on a tripod. There's snow there, so there's no problem with the tripod. I think I've forgotten. I used a cable on it. This guy's being very smart, right? Being very inventive with his 2 camera bodies, right, on a self-made DIY platform. He told me he was doing 3D. I don't know what he's doing. But, you know, he's going to end up with problems like that, you know, without cleaning the lens and everything, right? This is also roundup time, you know, in Inner Mongolia. This is about minus 20. This is very cold in Inner Mongolia. This is like about minus 25. You can put a tripod on there. You can't put on this. You can actually use an Athabasca lens, or filter, or you can use a Hoya filter of some sort. But I didn't use one because the ground is quite soft and you can put a tripod, right? Got to be warm, so you've got to dress appropriately. If you're wearing spectacles, you can now get anti-mist, right, inside most spectacle shops. I didn't have it at the time because it wasn't available in Malaysia. Now it is. You just spray it onto your spectacles and wipe it, and your spectacles are guaranteed, even in cold, to stay clear, you know, for quite a few hours. And this happens to be, I happen to like these oilskin jackets from Australia, but you can use anoraks or whatever. This is just roundup time. This is just a landscape on the right, and the guy in traditional Mongolian dress, the horses. This guy's having a smoke break. You can see the galloping in the freezing cold on the horse's feet. You can see on the right, you can see the pony sitting down, and you can see the ice on its mouth, you know, where it's trying to forage for, it's trying to forage for ice. Okay, let's look at the Gobi Desert. Gobi Desert is the 5th largest desert in the world. The big thing about the Gobi Desert are the winds, 75 miles per hour winds. So massive sandstorms, but only a certain time of the year. You access it from China. You can do from Himalaya. Sorry, access it from Mongolia, right? This is not my photo, right? But this shows you what a sandstorm looks like. So what you need to do is normally between March and April, you have to know when the sandstorm is coming. So you get out, because before the sandstorm is coming, there's already tons of sand in the air. Not much grows there. You know, it's miles and miles of sand. You just get these heather-type plants. This is just a bit of fun, right? Because the sand is very soft and you can sink in it. So we just had an idea with different color cloths, and we just colored our feet, right? You know, for walking in the sand. This is the beginning of a sandstorm. On the left, you can see these the horse racing. A lot of kids, you know, young kids, teenage kids, right, on horses there. And you can see, you know, this man. No, it's a woman. Sorry, you can see this woman, not a guy, and the reflection in their sunglasses of this guy sitting on his own in the sandstorm watching the racing. Right. This is early morning, right, in the Gobi Desert, and you can see the sun there. This is racing. Number 22 actually won. There were 14 horses in the race. This is sandstorm just starting the final race with the 2 riders going towards the starting point. You can see the policeman, you know, prepared with the mask over his face, and you can see a lady there, you know, in a tent, waiting to look out before the sandstorm starts. They love to decorate their saddles, and this is traditional Mongolian dress. Okay, shooting a volcano. So the first thing you've got to be very careful is of gas levels. You've got to check the heat and the temperature before you go. You've got to check which way the lava is flowing so you don't get caught, and you've got to be very careful. So as far as the camera is concerned, you need to use a UV filter. You don't use a tripod or anything like that. It's like in and out, very quick. You know, when I did this, I wrapped my camera in a white towel to stop it getting dirty, and I put the raincoat on top of it, and then I put it in an insulated camera bag. Whoops. So this is a type of bag you can use. I put mine actually in there at the time, in a cooler bag, after it, you know, got so hot. I mean, I don't know whether the camera got hot or I got hotter, because I was soaking. I must have lost a couple of kilos. But, you know, you can use a think tank bag. This is my favorite bag, you know, goes around your waist, because you've got to have somewhere to put your lens cap. Mine always dropped on the floor when I lose them. So this is quite good, right? So I photographed Mount Kilauea in Hawaii, which erupted in 2019 on the Big Island. And this is 4 days before eruption. And you can see it's 1,247 meters above elevation. And you can see already, if you look at the photo, how the lava is going into the sky already, and how it's full of gas and everything. So you've got to be really, really careful when you go and photograph it. So on eruption, the lava shot 165 foot in the air and 150 meters in the air, and you've got gases in the air. And the thing I like is the ring. This is near the crater. You know, it's only about 400 meters from the crater. It's quite close. So actually a bit stupid, but, you know, photography sometimes like that. You do stupid things, right? So how do you photograph this when it's so hot? The camera settings are shutter speed 1/1000. You adjust the ISO and aperture accordingly. f8 and ISO 1000 are safe. You've got to be very quick and prepare your camera. No tripod. So going to Antarctica, shooting in extreme nature. All right. The penguin saying hello. This is a Gentoo penguin, right? Which is one of 5 different penguins in Antarctica. So the big thing, as I shared before, but because of time constraints on Yellow Boots, I haven't put it here, is that I'll show you in a minute. There's only one way of getting to Antarctica, and the last bit of it is from the southernmost part of Argentina in a city called Ushuaia, which is the most southern city in the world. So you go across the sea, across something called the Drake's Passage, named after a guy, from England many years ago, who discovered it, Sir Francis Drake. And the big thing about this Drake's Passage is that the winds are very high. They can be 40-foot high, and about 800 ships have sunk in the passage over the years. So when you go there, the first thing you're told is that, even if you've got strong sea legs like me, I'm used to, my family have had boats, I'm used to the sea. Don't go out, stay in your cabin. Within each cabin, there are bunk beds, and you're told to strap yourself in, with a seatbelt, like a car seatbelt. And you're told, if you want to puke or get sick, do it over your bunk, or try and make it to the toilet, right? Because all have got, ensuite toilets. Don't go out and eat unless you really want to, and just stay there for 48 hours. And then when you get to Antarctica, the big thing you see is, after this, going across this very dangerous sea, is total quietness. No pollution, dry air, no noise, just quietness. It's like being in heaven, right? If you look at the place, no politics, nothing, right? So Antarctica is the largest wilderness on Earth, right? If you look at this picture, you can see the guy there, and it's a photo I took. This is about 600 meters away or something like that. And, the guy is the only guy in sight, and it's just loads and loads of ice and snow. Okay, so bit of a comparison, quick comparison. You can fit the USA and Mexico into Antarctica. It's that big. Antarctica land area is 14.2 million kilometers square. The land elevation is 7,500 feet, or 2.3 meters above sea level. So if you can't relate to the USA and Mexico, if you live locally like me in Kale, you can definitely relate to Australia. So you can fit Australia twice into Antarctica. So this is the big thing. How do you get there, right? So it's not, like tomorrow I'm going to JB, 4 hours to JB, or if you're in London up to Manchester, which is a few hours. This is a really bloody long journey, right? And whether you travel east across Australia or west, going across Africa, it's more or less the same distance. It's very little in it, because you have to land in Argentina, because there's no international flight that will take you to Ushuaia, which is here at the bottom of Antarctica. Only domestic flights. So, you fly 6 hours, 45 minutes to Dubai. Then from Dubai, it's 22 hours, 20 minutes to Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina. Then from there, it's 3 hours, 35 minutes domestic flight to Ushuaia. Then it's 48 hours by boat to Antarctica. So the total traveling time, not including transit, because there was transit, is 80 hours, 15 minutes. So it's a bloody long way. So for me, as I was sharing, my wife who came with me, she can go to sleep very quickly on a plane. Within a few minutes, she's off, zonked, right? Wake up just for food. Me, I pace up and down. I've got to watch every movie going. So when I researched, I found out Emirates got more movies than anybody else. So I can watch a lot and pace up and down. So we went Emirates, right? And to break the journey, because it's such a long journey, we stopped in Buenos Aires, which is such an interesting city. It's in fact the city where the current Pope in Rome, right, has got the church, that he was in, the cathedral, which is beautiful. And then it's got things like one of the oldest trees in the world, lots of things, just a nice old city with wonderful architecture and everything. We stopped there for 2 days, and then we stopped in Ushuaia for 1 day, just to get any clothes that were missing to go to Antarctica, and just to have a rest. And then it's 48 hours across the sea. So it really is a bloody long way, right? So people ask, is it cold in Antarctica? So there's a fallacy, or people think the North Pole is colder than Antarctica. Wrong. The South Pole in summer, which is up here, is minus 28.2 degrees centigrade. In winter, it's minus 64 centigrade. In 1986, the coldest recorded was minus 89.6 centigrade. So if you can imagine, 28.2 centigrade, you can't even feel your nose anymore, right? Or if you sneeze, goodbye. You can't even see the droplets, right? They're stuck there like ice. But the South Pole is colder than the North Pole, which is minus 22 centigrade in summer and minus 29 in winter. So in summer, it's minus 22 against the South Pole, minus 28. So the outside of Antarctica, so this is the South Pole. Antarctica is so huge. So the outside of Antarctica, which is the Weddell Sea, which is the first place you go to crossing from Argentina, is -1 to -10, but very dry. The air is very dry. So in winter, it's frozen over. So the way to go is round the Weddell Sea, go around the Antarctica Peninsula, and go around the Belarusian Sea, right, as far as you can go, if you want to do that, right? So people ask also, can you travel to the South Pole? Yes. You travel on a Russian plain, which is called an Aleutian plain, but there's no wildlife. There's nothing to see at the South Pole. The snow is very deep. It's 8,000 feet deep. I mean, this American flag is embedded in rock that they put there. Otherwise, it would just topple over all the time. There's so much ice. It's dry, it's cold, it's windy. So can you fly there? Yes, you can. There's specialist operators out of Chile, which is next to Argentina on the map. And you spend only 3 to 4 hours at the South Pole because it's too cold and very expensive. So, can you drive to the South Pole? Yes, you can, but very few have done it. Why? Because it's such a hard trip and it's too expensive. You need special trucks with fuel that will not freeze, like the Hilux trucks here, which is specially constructed. 2 persons per truck. The cost to go from Chile, which are the only operators, is $70,000 per person, 290,000 ringgit, 460 ringgit. The price of a house here, or what is it the price of? I don't know. Car, a Mercedes car or something like that, right? So you fly from Chile to Antarctica, which is down here. So who owns Antarctica? No one, right? The Antarctic Treaty was signed in 1959, protected by 12 countries. These are Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Japan, Norway, South Africa, Russia, New Zealand, USA, UK. Why? It was to totally protect Antarctica from pollution and from all sorts of things. Like, I haven't included it in this presentation, but there are a lot of whales in Antarctica. And in the 1930s, 1950s, there were a lot of whalers there because whale was used to make candles, and it was used as a cheap oil for lubricating machinery. So they're there to protect all sorts of things. So all sorts of things like that. So are you still with me? Can you see the slide? Right, the vessel? Hello?
Yep, all good, all good.
Okay, all right. There are many ways of going to Antarctica, right? You can go on a sailing boat. You can go on a vessel like this. There are no cruise ships because, like the cruise ships you find at Port Klang, or if you're in the UK, like Robin at Southampton, all these big fancy cruise ships, because they're not built for Antarctica. Second thing also is you need a special license, right, for the ship to go into Antarctica according to the Atlantic Treaty, and they're not easy to get. So there are 2 ways of going. One is you can go on a sailing ship, or you can go on one of these special ships, something that looks like this one, and you can be snap happy, take thousands and thousands of photos, come back, you've got nice landscapes, but you've learned nothing. So my way that I decided was different, together with my wife. We wanted to learn about the place that we were going to and take photos. So when we came back to Malaysia, it was something meaningful to remember, and we had a good memory, and we could relate to what we did. So we took this boat, and there's only 14 people on board, and the ship was built in 1970 in the USA, but it's registered, I don't know why, and has the flag of the Union of Comoros in East Africa, which is a country there, and it operates out of Ushuaia. And the big thing about this boat is every time we went out in the morning, we had very early breakfast on the boat, and very simple, and then there is a room there where a naturalist can show slides, and a geologist as well, and they told us about the rock formations, what we were going to see, the wildlife, and what to look for, and then we went out exploring. So, like that is very meaningful. So this is just a morning landscape, from in Antarctica. This is not my photo. It's the photo I got, friends gave to me, right? Excuse the spelling mistake. It's -105 Fahrenheit, which is -38 centigrade, right? So it was specially built at the South Pole, which is it's the only research station at the South Pole by the American Navy in 1956. And because it's so cold, it was built in prefabricated modules that were flown in with exteriors that are 4 foot thick and aluminium inner surfaces and plywood sandwiching the fiberglass. This is around -12 centigrade and the sun is out already. One of the things about Antarctica, the weather's very unpredictable. When you get up in the morning, it can be nice and nice sunshine. In the afternoon, it can be slightly dark. But as I'm going to share, in Antarctica, there is 2 seasons: summertime, wintertime. Summertime, unlike here, there is 24 hours daylight. So it's like if it's minus 12 already, it's going to be the same all day and all night. So you've got to get used to the fact there is no sunsets, right? Proper sunsets, right? Except if you're really lucky, as I was a couple of times. And in the wintertime, it's pitch black, right? There's nothing there at all. So in the wintertime, what happens is that all the ice flows, right, and the icebergs, which I'll show you in a minute, they all interlock. So the area is inaccessible by boat. So on the research stations, there are about 13 or 14 of them. The people are landlocked, and because it's not easy to fly there because of the magnetic fields and everything, so people don't like to fly there, you know, because they have no proper navigation, right? Especially in wintertime. These people, you know, on these research stations, they've got nothing to do. So on the Russian research stations, they make their own vodka, which is not like the vodka you'd find at KLIA or Heathrow. It's very potent. And then there is a police force in Antarctica, you know, which is, at the moment, it's from the USA, but they're rotating between the countries. And the only crime committed in Antarctica is getting stone drunk and doing silly little things, right? Okay, this is beautiful clear water with reflection, totally no pollution. You know, you can see how beautiful it is. No empty bottles, rubbish, nothing. This is another one. With reflection, very quiet, no sounds. This is shot again with a 16-35 lens on AV mode, f8, and on a handheld, and you can see, right? This is not wrong in the sense that my photo is wrong. The actual landscape is actually going downwards like that. It's not the fact I haven't leveled it out or done anything. But you look at me and you look at the size of me in comparison to the vast landscape, and you can see how huge Antarctica is. Here you can see again.
Mike, I think the slide's not moving, Mike.
Is the slide moving now? What can you see? What can you see? Tell me what you can see.
The reflection.
This one. Can you see this one?
No, it's still the same landscape with reflection.
This one? Is this the one?
Not yet. Maybe the internet a bit slow on your side.
No. Can you see this one?
No, still the same. It's kind of stuck. It's changed to morning landscape now.
Morning landscape.
Yep.
It's changed to this.
Morning landscape too.
All right. I'll go through these. I won't explain them again because you can read. Can you see this slide, the research station?
Yes.
Okay. See this one around minus 12 degrees centigrade?
No, it's still the research station. It's now changed to minus 12.
Right. You can see no pollution?
No.
No? See no pollution?
No. Still stuck at minus 12C.
All right. So I'm very sorry about this. I don't know why.
It's all right. I guess it's just internet a little bit slow on your side.
I don't know. I'm not a high-tech person, Michael. Right?
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah. Something's coming now.
Can you see clear pollution?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, let's move on. Yeah.
Can you now see landscape with reflection?
No, it's still the no pollution. Strange, it's not moving at the moment.
It was moving before. Why the heck is it not moving now? Can you see now landscape with reflection? No?
No.
We now on the beautiful clear water with reflection, no pollution.
I don't know why this is. No, I don't know what to do about it, Michael.
Do you want to, can I suggest that you hang up and then come back again? Is that okay?
Oh, wait a minute. If I close it, right?
Yeah.
Save, don't save. Right. Let me go in again.
Yep. Yeah, perfectly okay.
Where is it? Okay, can you see this now? Landscape with reflection.
It's beautiful.
Okay,
Yep.
right. Okay. Okay, this was how can you see this?
Yep.
Look at his eyes. Okay, all right. This I was just sharing. This is not, the photo is not wrong. The landscape was going down like that, and it's just to show, illustrate how big, how small I am in comparison to the vast Antarctica. This is a Zodiac boat against a vessel. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. This is exploring using a Zodiac boat. So, they use these boats because they can go in very shallow water. This is, I think there's 6 people on this boat. You can stand up. They're quite rigid, and take a photo, but you can't land because there's no landing place here. It's just sheer ice. So these Zodiac boats, they're very sturdy inflatables, often used by the military. They're good for shallow water. They're first used in France in 1896. They're used by the Marines. I think we even have them in Malaysia. They're made from plastic polymers like PVC and synthetic rubbers, and due to their welded structure, they have tremendous stability. So each boat has partitions in it, and these are specially constructed. Can you see my iceberg? Still with me?
It's showing the Zodiac boat.
Can you see my iceberg now?
No.
Oh dear.
Something not right with the PowerPoint, maybe?
Oh. Can't see my iceberg.
Not yet.
No. Yeah, not yet.
Right, okay. Maybe I'll use Keynote.
Now is the iceberg, yeah.
I'm gonna still use Keynote. Right. Keynote. Right, can you see the Zodiac boat?
Perfectly
Yes.
okay.
All right. Okay, this is Keynote, Apple Keynote, right? Can you see the iceberg now?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right. The situation with icebergs there are a lot of them, right? And you can see from the cartoon that they're 90% below water. And they're chunks of ice that break off from glaciers into the ocean. The glacial ice that icebergs are made can be more than 15,000 years. So the nice thing about icebergs from a photography point of view is no two are the same. On a previous Antarctic a presentation, I showed loads of photos of icebergs. They're like works of art. Some of them have got marbling, others have not. But the one point that's quite important is that ships have to look for these icebergs, like look over the side and things like that. There's no GPS or anything for icebergs. Sonar sometimes works. But during the winter time, what happens is that these icebergs, like magic, they lock together, right? So you have one big mass. And now what's happening with global warming is 2 things. The first thing is that the icebergs are starting to melt a bit. And the second thing I'll explain to you about is about the wild animals, what's happening to them. So when you go to Antarctica, what you wear is quite important. So, the first thing is you need to protect your camera, right? Can you see this photo of me with the protection, what to wear? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
This
Yep.
is ice. You cannot put a tripod on here. Even if you put a spike on here, it is so thick and so slippery. Sorry, it's not yellow boots, right? These are my yellow boots are treasured. These are throwaway boots. I bought these cheap throwaway boots in Argentina. Once you wear in Antarctica, right? Because the big thing is penguin poop smells, really smells. So after you've done penguin poop, right, and you've been on it, right, and then you go into back on the boat, you have to soak your feet in disinfectant. So, you know, after Antarctica, who would want to take boots with penguin poop home? My wife would throw me out, right? So they're gone. My yellow boots are treasured. They're at home, not for this, right? So on this, right, the first thing is that you need, obviously, a storm jacket to protect your camera. Although the air is dry, right, there is still bits of ice, right, and there is a little bit of snow, right, floating around, and you've constantly got to wipe your lens because it's getting misty. You must have a dry pack. So I like this type of backpack, which I actually bought, I remember, in Argentina before we got on the boat. I saw it in a shop, right? Because when you get on these Zodiac boats that I showed you, if you have a loose dry pack and you're not careful, and that, you know, you get in the boat and you slip or something, and that ice pack goes in the water, it's goodbye, sayonara. So at least this is on your back, and you've got it there all the time. You need a belt pack of some sort. It doesn't matter what the brand is, because you need to put your lens cap and a few bits and pieces in there, including your gloves. You must have waterproof trousers in case you fall down, right? As I said, you need boots with shoes with spikes. And then you need to put in here a filter, a blower, cleaning cloth, lens cap, and gloves. And then you obviously, the jacket can be anything. I just happen to like these oilskin jackets. This is just a beautiful landscape. This is shot with a 16-35 lens, right, early in the morning, off a Zodiac boat in AV mode, right? There are 5. Are you up to me with penguins? Can you see the penguins?
Yes.
Okay. There are 5 types of penguins. There's something like 14, 15 million penguins in Antarctica. This is called a chin strap penguin. And the big thing about these penguins is the coat is very tight. So because it's tight, it's waterproof. So they can dive quite deep into the water looking for fish. So these are 72 centimeters high. They weigh about 3 to 5 kilos. They live 15 to 20 years, and they're about 8 million pairs. This is the Weddell seal, all right? So I shot when the seal was sleeping. I shot it with a 100-400 lens. This photo here is cropped. It's quite tame, but you've got to be careful because they're light sleepers as well. Can't get too near, but, you know, my 100-400 lens was all right at 400. There are around 800,000 of these seals in Antarctica. They can stay underwater for 45 minutes. They're quite unusual. They've dived down to 2,000 feet. They have, you know, they're like me, and I don't know if Harley's listening. We've only got one wife. He's got Sharon. I've got Linda, right? I don't know about anybody else, right? So they're very loyal. They only have one wife a year. One wife permanently, not a year, right? They also have one pup a year. They're very placid animals, very friendly. They eat cod and other fish, and they eat anything from 10 to 15 kilo. It should be a day, all right? Antarctica's got lots of different whales. In fact, during the 1920s and 1930s, right, Antarctica was a major whaling destination where whale oil was used for making candles and also as a cheap oil for as a lubricant for machinery. So I only picked one whale at the moment. They're very different types of whales, from humpback to this orca whale. And the reason I picked these orca whales is because they hunt in packs. So this particular whale, there are 2 of them. You can see the 2 dorsal fins, right? What they do is they will hunt in packs and they will pin down other whales. That's why they're called killer whales, and they'll go after them, right? In packs of maybe 5 or 10. And also the big thing is they like to go up to, they're not afraid, fearless, one could say. They go up to beaches and in Antarctica, and if they see a baby penguin on the beach, you know, that's about to go in the water, they suddenly jump and they'll kill the baby penguin, right? This is a crab-eater seal. They're quite common in Antarctica. They weigh around 225 kilo. This is shot with 400 meters away, and I cropped it, right? And it's shot in AV mode, I think f8, and handheld. I've forgotten the ISO. I think it's about 1100 ISO or something like that. Okay, so the one big point about all the animals in Antarctica, because there are birds and there are seals and there are different types of whales, So it's not a land just of penguins, because there are a lot of penguins, is that they are now moving further and further into Antarctica. So where you saw right at the beginning, I only touched when I went with this research boat, the beginning of Antarctica, because it gets too cold when you go into, as you go further into Antarctica. Global warming is melting the ice on the outskirts of Antarctica, and it's also melting icebergs. So all these animals are moving further and further inland. So animals like the King Emperor penguin that you see in all the photographs, right, of Antarctica, are now moving so far inland because they like temperatures of 30, 35, minus 30, 35. So they're getting less and less accessible to sea. So this is just, it looks like an oil slick, but it's not, right? It's a wonderful sunset that I took, right? So you do get them occasionally, right? Even in the summertime. So this is just being a bit naughty, right? With Michael and Howard, you know, yellow boots, yellow boots, yellow boots. Even he is dreaming of yellow boots. When's our next outing? All right, loads of yellow boots. So thank you for listening to me. Happy shooting. Stay safe. Answer any questions you like. You know, in terms of things like photos, you know, I only shoot RAW. Occasionally I shoot RAW and JPEG. If I, you know, in sport sometimes, you know, you take a couple of thousand photos, you want to have a quick look at them. So I shoot that. And I try and go to interesting places if I can. What else can I share with you? I don't know. Right. Oh, sorry. The 2,000 photos I took in Antarctica, I've actually forgotten now. But, you know, you take a lot of photos and you expect some to be okay and some not to be okay. So I think that 1,400 or so were okay, which is quite a good hit rate. And out of the 1,400, I think about 700, 800 were very good. Good by my standards, maybe not good by other people's standards, but mainly in editing. I've got friends like Harley's here. He's my Sifu. Is he here? Harley, right, okay, my friend. He's my Sifu, right? Photographic Sifu, right? I'm not as accomplished or as good as he is, right? So my editing skills are very little, and I need teaching like a student, even in my senior citizen years, right? So I crop, you know, and that's about all I do. And then I pray and hope for the best. And so far, I'm lucky. So that's it. What else can I share with you?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much. For those that have just joined in, we actually started at 8, and now actually Michael actually kind enough to give us a second session. He just finished a second session. Yeah. So for those that have just joined in at 9, if you have any question, please ask Mike. Yeah.
Sorry about the confusion on the time, because yellow boots is for those that like after hours at 9 o'clock who sit here, you know, with popcorn or something like that.
Normally we start at 9. We just said today is a special session. At 8.
Yeah, because I'm an old man at 71. I'm a senior citizen, so I can claim some rights start a bit earlier. Anyone want to ask anything, you know, please do.
Yes,
if I can answer,
yeah.
I will do. I'm not perfect, but I try my best.
Mike, just wondering, when you were in Antarctica, how you manage your sleep? Because summertime you have 24 hours daylight.
I've got a good friend, right? Whiskey.
How you
Whiskey bottle. Otherwise, out to sleep. Right. My wife can sleep anywhere. Me, you know, I need to either be zonked out, someone to hit me, right, or whiskey bottle or something, right?
But it's kind of difficult to differentiate night and day, isn't it? I mean, you have 24 hours daylight.
It's very difficult also, but the big thing is you know, you go somewhere like that, you get quite excited, you know, because no 2 days are the same in terms of landscape. So you're always thinking, you know, what am I going to see today, you know, and have I, when I've done my research before I go, is my shot going to be there that I plan to take, you know, and so you get very excited, you know. For me, I didn't sleep too much, honestly. I slept like a log when I got home. Right? Just I slept for weeks or something when I got home. So every time I try and do something, just to share, I try and do something different. And what I'm looking for maybe next year, because I've come to the stage in life where long flights like this are really out. Although I'd like to do it, you know, there are plenty of wonderful places to go to in South America, like Costa Rica and places like that, Nicaragua, and I've been to. I've already been to quite a few places, but all the journeys, you know, are so long, and you don't know what's happening with COVID. You know, I want to stay in the region, you know, and I saw there are actually so many places one could go to in China that aren't explored, as an example. And locally, there's so many things I'd like to do, but I'm a believer that, you know, besides taking wonderful shots, one wants to do things locally for other people. So next year, in 2022, I'm very involved with the Malaysian Paralympic team. I'm supposed to have gone to Tokyo, but I never went because a lot of you know I had a major operation. But I want to help them. So I will be asking for volunteers to come and help me photograph them in Panda Indah in training. And you can see the guy who won the gold medal in weightlifting, who's a small guy, and see how he does his training and things like that. Give them the photos to give them some publicity because they're underfunded. And then I'm heavily involved in autistic children. I want to do things for autistic children. So I'll be asking for friends who've got time on their hands, you know, who want to do something good for the community to try and help me. No pay, but, you know, feel good in the heart that you're doing something for others. So I'll be doing things like that. And then, you know, looking at different things locally to do. Looking for inspiration for others. Like my friend Harley, who's very good, you know, I always admire when he does his wonderful portrait shots and things like that. I'm no good at model shots, but I'm willing to learn.
You have to learn Photoshop first.
You are not my Sifu. You are my Sifu. So, after you.
Mike, where else you want to go? You know, when travel's allowed next year?
No, well, I have. Everyone's got a bucket list, right? So I've got. Yeah. This is okay. This is really several places. The first thing, it depends on my health and whether I can. What is long distance traveling like, and what is COVID like on long distance traveling? Like to go back to the UK is 13 hours. But because I grew up in London and I know London intimately, I have this desire maybe to go with some friends, you know, on a cost sharing basis, whatever, to photograph all the London markets because they are quite unique. Like the flower market at Covent, it's not Covent Garden, it's the new Covent Garden, which is closed to the public. The flowers coming from Holland and all over the world about 4:30 in the morning. And you see all these trucks arriving, and the place is enormous. It's like lot 10. Put the whole lot 10 inside it. Or you go to Billingsgate Market, the meat market, which again is quite incredible, and watch all the meat coming in and how it's cut and prepared for the restaurants and things like that. And then Portobello Market is the very famous antique market, and also it's the market where a lot of people from the Caribbean have stayed. So there's all sorts of food like that. So luckily enough, I speak the local language, which is a dialect in London called Cockney. So I can get around these markets. So I have a desire to do a lot of street photography there, and then ask any friend here who wants to go to come with me. Because I lived 37 years in London. Another thing I want to do is I want to go in the summertime to Scotland to photograph the Highland Games, which is quite something, with all these men, you know, tossing the caber and the javelin and doing these Highland Games in all the villages in Scotland, and then go to the very north of Scotland and photograph all the islands, which are quite unique, with some of them producing illegal whiskey and that sort of thing. And then I've got desire to do that. And then Greenland, my desire is, everybody says go and do landscape photography, but I don't want to. I want to find and do research a family of polar bears and follow the family of polar bears. That's my big thing. And then the other thing is that because on my father's side, my great-grandfather came from Russia. I've never been to Russia. So that is a big thing of mine, and particularly St. Petersburg, because my great-grandfather designed a lot of the bridges there. So I want to go to Russia, and I want to go inside Russia and photograph Arctic fox and things like that. So I got desire to do things like that. And then Malaysia, there's honestly so many places to see. It's a matter of deciding what you want to do and getting in the car and finding like-minded friends who just want fellowship to do it. So I believe now I've changed over the years. I mean, 15 years ago, I could say I was like an arrogant son of a bitch, right? Today, I'm not. Today, I'm quite placid. And I think the main reason is photographing these humble Malaysian athletes who want nothing but to win for the country. Had a big effect on me. And all I'm interested in is good fellowship. And if you're lucky, you get the right nice shots and do something a bit different. So that's what I'm looking to do.
Well said,
As long
Mike.
as I
Well
can.
said.
As long as I can.
Sure. I'm sure you can. Yeah. Okay, guys. Any more questions for Mike before we end our session tonight? Yeah. Ali, Kwan, Cindy, Jean, Adrian. Who else in the list?
The one thing, Michael, is that to go on all these trips, right? You know, I've got an R5, Harley's got an R5, Cindy's got one, right? Wonderful cameras. Now you've got the R3, next year the R1. But, you know, I mean, we're Canon enthusiasts, but you don't need the best of equipment, right, to go to these places. What you need to do is plan. That's the big thing I've learned, you know, over the last 10 years. You know, it's not to carry all your dry cabinets with you and, you know, you get a camera that you just press a button, it will do the whole thing for you. Is think before you go what you're going to do and then plan. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to all these places, even to China, right, unless you're working for a company, you're paying for your own flights. So it's costing you money. So you might as well make the most of it, right? And then decide what you want to do before you go. And then, you know, hopefully with help from above, you get the shot you want, you come back, you're very happy, and then you can share it with your friends on Facebook or wherever.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Right. I think no more question from the groups. Thanks a lot, Mike. Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Valuable.
You finished
Very valuable sessions. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Good night.
No, hang on a minute. Thank you very
so
much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for finishing at my official bedtime.
Good night. Good night.
Michael.
You did very well.
God bless.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. God bless. Yeah.